Hello and welcome to another video. Thanks for tuning in. In today's video, I'll give you a brief introduction into Net API and how you can interact with it. Firstly, let's go to the API documentation. You'll notice that the API endpoints are grouped by tags. Some API endpoints have multiple tags. For example, if I'm to expand the Genie and NetMiko tags, you'll notice the same endpoint under both tags. Today we'll start off with the inventory grouping and we will work our way through them just to give you an idea of what we have in NetAPI. NetAPI provides inventory API endpoints so you can see which hosts or groups are available and configured by Nornir. We'll look at all three endpoints today, starting out with the all inventory endpoint. So if we expand this endpoint, we can see what it is that we expect to get back from the API endpoint call. So I'll go ahead and click try it out. And as you can see in here, there's a lot of information in here about the defaults, the groups configured, and the hosts configured within Nornir. You'll notice at the top here, the default username and password have been redacted for security purposes. So this has a lot of information to go through. Sometimes we don't want all this information, and this is where the next two API endpoint calls come in handy. The next one we have is NR inventory groups, and in here we can look at all the groups. So let's click the try it out button. And as you can see in here, we have our different groups named after the operating system, EOS, the platform configured, and the port under the Scraply connection options. We also have the platform EOS also configured. Finally, we have the NR inventory host endpoint. So let's click on try it out. And in here, we can see all the individual hosts that have been configured. So we've got all our hosts in here, which are in my lab. The one we're going to focus on today is lab CSR01 lab.dfjt.local. It's an iOS device. It has this IP address. So what we're going to do is use this host and try out some of the other plugins which come within NetAPI and show you what can be done. To get started, we'll work through some of the Napalm plugins. So if we expand those, you'll see that we have all these endpoints that we can use. The one that we'll be focusing on today is NR Napalm Interfaces Hosts. So if we expand that, we get information about the implementation of what this is for, what should happen when it works successfully, and also just some information about what we should expect returned once we run this call. And if we scroll down, we'll notice that the host value is required. So we'll type the name of our host in here and click try it out. As you can see, it has responded from the device and we have the host interfaces and individual interfaces under the hosts. As you can see, the interfaces getter in Napalm provides a whole bunch of information. You can see the description on the port, whether the port is enabled or up, its MAC address, speed, NTU. So some ports are up here with descriptions and some ports are disabled. Next, let's look at Scraply to send a command and use Genie to pass the output. So we'll minimize Napalm, open up Scraply, click on Genie. Next, I'm going to take you over to the Genie passes page. Genie provide hundreds and hundreds of passes for all different systems. So if we go up to the top here, you can see the different operating systems that they support. It's predominantly a Cisco-backed project, but as you can see in here, they have support for Juniper and F5 Big IP. So what we're going to do is look for a parser that we want to use. So we will pick something like show route map, and as we can see, show route map all is supported by Genie. So this means that it should be supported by NetAPI. So as we go back over to the documentation, you'll notice here that it is going to run a send command. Send command is the name of the Scraply function and pass the output using Genie. So what we'll do is we'll type in the name of the host and the name and our command that we want to run, show route map all. Click try it out. And as you can see below, the command has been correctly passed by Genie. So it has returned us back structured data, which is valuable. Finally, let's use NetMiko to send a command and use TextFSM to pass the output. So we'll minimize the Scraply tags, expand the NetMiko tags, click on the one for TextFSM. And this time we're going to go over to the network to code templates repository and search for a template that we can use. So firstly, I'll just scroll you through the templates directory. And as you can see, there is extensive support for multiple vendors. We have Alcatel, Arista, Avaya, Brocade, Checkpoint, Ciena, Cisco, lots of Cisco, obviously, Dell, HP, Huawei, Juniper, Palo Alto, Ruckus, Ubiquiti, VMware, Viata. So a lot more support for vendors. However, what we're after today is the Cisco iOS templates. So the naming convention of the templates is the maker and then the operating system. So let's go down to Cisco iOS and let's look for something like show IP BGP summary. Okay, so that looks like it's supported over here. So let's go back to NetAPI and give that command a go through the API endpoint. Unlike Scraply, NetMiko is going to take a little bit longer sometimes. That's pretty snappy this time. And as you can see here, it has returned structured data in relation to that show IP BGP summary command. So we have the local AS, the neighboring AS, the router ID, the neighbor, how long the neighbor's been up for, and how many prefixes we're receiving. So that wraps up today's video. In today's video, we have learnt the basics of using NetAPI through the API documentation. We saw how to inspect the Nornia inventory for groups and hosts. We also saw how to use various plugins to query a host using Napalm, Genie, Scraply, NetMiko, and TextFSM. Although we've only scratched the surface, hopefully you can see the potential of NetAPI and the power of having a structured API to query network devices. Links to both the Genie parsers and the NTC templates directory will be provided in the notes below. Thanks for taking the time to learn more about NetAPI, and I hope this video has been helpful. Bye for now.